Jim.
Okay.
All right, Jim, can you hear us?
No. Now we should be able to.
Now, Jim, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
All right, good.
Just a second, Jim. We're going to get you so you can.
This is the Personnel Committee, City of Green Bay, on Tuesday, June 13th. Roll call, Alders Burnett, Johnson are here in person. Alder Hutchinson is here by Zoom. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes from our May 23rd meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Under regular business, under item E, number 1, for consideration with possible action to add the Conservation Corps Field Assistant position to Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department Table of Organization effective September 1st, 2023. Staff.
So you have included in the packet the job description and also a memo from Director Ditchite and myself. And so if you have any questions or concerns about or you want some background, we have Director Ditchite to go through that. And then I guess before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Director Ditchite and also Maria Otto, who oversee the program. It looks like from the memo they've really exceeded expectations for the first year. So kudos to you guys. Nice job.
Does anyone have any questions for staff?
This is not, this is levy supported, right? This is not grant supported? Yeah, why don't you do that? So the grant is structured so that this position would be levy supported, but it is a match. So in 2023, the city received a grant for $388,745, and then the city was responsible to come up with a match of roughly $120,000, of which the city bonded $86,000. So at the time, the bulk of Maria's position, Maria's the Conservation Corps coordinator, the bulk of her position was funded through the bonding portion of it. And then the grant itself covered the program expenses. So it's contracting out with the members, the AmeriCorps members. So in 2023, which is this year, the grant covered 6 full-time members and 15 seasonal summer members. So there's 21 positions in there right now. That's all grant funded. And the city, though, has to come up with a match of $120,000, like I said, of which was bonding $86,000. And then last year we had in-kind of $33,982 in last year's grant. Now, on an annual basis, we have to redo the budget and submit a revised budget to AmeriCorps and get a new grant approved every single year. So we're committed to a 3-year grant, but the budget is year by year. So we recently just got notification that our 2024 budget was approved, and we should be getting the grant contract fairly soon on that. And the dollars have changed a little bit from last year. So this year, or next year I should say, our grant will cover about $10,000 less, so it's $378,573, and then the city has to come up with a little bit more. So instead of $120,000, we have to come up with $128,310, which means that we have to come up with a little bit more. But then in addition, we had a lot of in-kind stuff last year that was kind of one-time in-kind services that we couldn't apply to next year. So what it means is, in any scenario, we're going to have, if we accept this grant, we're going to have to bond $115,678, which is about an increase of $29,000 over last year, because we lost some of that in-kind because it was a one-time in-kind service. What we're proposing in this position is adding a second full-time position to the city's table of organization, which will primarily be funded through city bonding, because we're going to have to bond a total of $115,000 if we accept this grant. And what this position would do is, right now, the responsibility for Maria is to not only manage the grant, but it's to do all the promotional stuff, to do all of the HR duties, such as recruiting, training, going out on the job site with all of these crews, figuring out what the jobs are going to be, finding the materials. It's just too much work with a program of this size for one person to effectively manage the construction end and the management end of things, and also try to find donations. So that's another job duty of Maria's, is to go out in the community and find donations to offset some of our costs. So what we're proposing here is to add a second position who will basically be an assistant to Maria and will handle the day-to-day operations of managing the various crews. So that would free up Maria's time to focus on kind of the big picture stuff, such as recruitment, education, volunteer opportunities, grant management, and stuff like that. So that's the reason that we're proposing this position.
Does this position, along with any others that are levy supported, do they expire once the grant expires?
So in this scenario, these positions, and I'd probably have to talk to HR about that, but these positions, what we talked to Maria about is if the grant goes away, the position also goes away. And so that would be the same with this position also. If there's no funding for it and there's no program to run, obviously the position isn't necessary anymore. But we're hopeful that this program will continue beyond the 3 years. Typically with AmeriCorps grants, they usually extend them several terms beyond the initial grant. They give you less and less each grant cycle, so that hopefully you can, try to pick up that cost or be a little more self-sufficient and not 100% reliant on grant funding as the program continues. But we're definitely locked into this grant for another 2 years, for sure.
I want to add to what Dan was saying about the less and less. So right now, we're held at a 24% match for a grant. It's a federal grant. It's a very low percentage for match. And then every 3-year cycle, that percentage that we're required to match increases up to a cap of 50-50, which is very common for federal grants to be a 50-50 match, but we don't hit that until our 10th year of operation. So they, like he was saying, they slowly decrease the grant funding, which therefore increases your match to the point to get you at a 50% for the rest of the program's lifetime.
So really what you're looking for, you have a way to fund this year, right? And of course, you're saying to obligate it for next year, but really any position is up for discussion at budget time, but it would just be the expectation that you're going to budget for it. Looking at you, and I get, this is a lot of people to manage. It really is. So that makes sense to me. I think back to the days when I owned a small business and didn't even have this many people, and it was you even think about a typical organization. They say when you get to 50 employees, you should be hiring an HR person and an accountant and those specialties, and you're halfway there. So I can appreciate why you need that division of labor and that separation.
Yeah, and I guess one thing to add to that is when we accepted the grant and created the program, we were hopeful we would be at full capacity with membership, but we were also very concerned that we wouldn't hit those goals because it's so hard to find staffing right now, both seasonal and full-time, and these positions didn't pay a lot of money. So we were pleasantly surprised that we're at 100% full with our staffing for 2023. And if we can continue, if Maria can continue with promoting the program, we're hopeful that we'll be at full capacity next year also.
There's one contingency to this, Dan, and that is you can no longer put on your position fill request that the Parks Department has grown and no positions have been added.
Correct.
Because this is 23 positions.
Correct. Well, those are members, those aren't positions. So those are AmeriCorps members.
And I'm only teasing, of course, but
Yeah.
it's...
So one thing I do want to say, just to clarify here, is this position is not necessarily tied to the accepting the grant. What is tied to accepting the grant is the city has to come up with a match of $128,000 in our city, in combination of our city budget and in-kind matches. So how we have it structured right now is we'll have to bond 115 if we accept the grant. Now,
We
the
have to bond
grant
it.
is going to go to Parks Committee next week for discussion and approval to accept the grant. And by accepting it, we're committing that we will be bonding $115,000 next year.
Why are we bonding for it?
Or not bonding, I'm sorry,
Oh,
for
good.
budgeting, not bonding.
That's
Yeah, I did
Buying
want-
salaries, I was like, "Ah."
Sorry for clarifying, it's
Yeah.
budgeting, not bonding.
I did want to correct Dan, he kept saying bonding, and throughout all of 2023, the additional 100,000 was in 2023 budget, and we would put in 24, we would bond for some reason.
Sorry, I misspoke.
No.
But the one thing that I do want to point out is because this position isn't necessarily tied to the grant, it is somewhat of an optional position, or to your discretion and the city's council's discretion, if we want to add the position to the table of organization. Now, the one thing that it will do is it will add a little bit of extra budget next year. So, like I mentioned, we will have to budget $115,678 in 2024. If we approve this position, we would have to increase that by another $15,530. So in my opinion, based on the needs of effectively running the Conservation Corps program, by adding an additional 15,000, you're getting a lot of benefit that outweighs the $15,000 expense. So that 15,000 is optional if you don't want to fill that position today, which in essence, obviously every position is to the discretion at budget time, but in essence, we're adding it to the table of organization now is what we're proposing. So we would have to budget a total of, let's see if I wrote that down, roughly 144,000 next year.
No, and that makes more sense, Dan. I wasn't clicking with me that it was the match requirement. So that makes a ton of sense to me. And so, like, I'm good with this position. It's not costing us anything this year. You're going to redirect some money.
Correct.
It's going to, and I think ultimately, to me, it's the Parks Committee agreeing to the terms of the grant, and all that will funnel up to council. So
You've got something great here, I think. I can't believe you're not getting up on top of City Hall with a bullhorn and announcing this. I mean, when you see what they've done this year, and I mean, you get out, you get on the bike trails, you walk your dog in a park, you see the impact they've had. Bears Creek alone is an entirely different setup, and with the relationship also with the Preservation Society out there too, but working hand in hand, it's amazing what they've done out there. I just think, and especially for a community that, you know, promotes itself as a tree city and all this other stuff, again, what they're doing, I mean, this is, I think I know why you've got a full staff, because you've got people in schools that this is what they want to do with their lives, and there aren't that many opportunities out there. Not like this, where you're actually in a community, not having to go live out in the sticks or something like that. You can actually, you're in a beautiful city, and you're able to do these kind of things. No, you go. I mean,
I also just want to highlight those numbers that are in the memo are from our March report. So that does not include all the extra acres and impact that we were able to have now that we have an additional 15 summer members. So those numbers are
Even
greatly increased. So these are the numbers that we had as of March, so.
I'd put out
I
a
just-
press
I just
re-
wanted to
I
put
would.
that out
I would
there.
put out a press release with those numbers and what they've done in locations and where they had the impact.
We drastically exceeded our goals for the year.
And you could see what was happening.
Correct.
Before this had, I mean, there were trails out there. Bears Creek, perfect example. All the trails had been really done real nice years ago, but the signs were gone, the trails were gone. There was overgrowth, there was invasive species. I mean, you know, it's a night and day park out there now. So, and in other parks, I mean, they've even worked, they do some work down on Jackson Street at the park there. Navarino.
They just planted some trees at Mather Heights too, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and especially with the damage from the ash trees, getting those saplings back in sooner is, you know, is going to be, again, good for the community, so I'm in favor of this.
Move to approve.
Second? All those in favor?
I'm not the chair.
You're the chair.
Oh, I'm the chair.
There
There I go. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to me being in charge? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Move that we identify a new chair.
Okay, update on timeline for the employee compensation market assessment. Does anyone have any questions for staff on that?
Well, I can give a quick update.
Sure.
And then we have our consultant on the line as well.
Sure.
To introduce himself. So we met with, well, I guess the Common Council did approve the market assessment at a Common Council meeting. We met with Carlson Denman Consulting to talk about the timeline moving forward. First thing we have done so far, we provided internal salary information to the consultant. They're currently gathering market information right now, which should go through June and July. Then around August time, we'll look at costing and implementation, and then we're hoping around August, September to meet with employees and also meet with the personnel committee to give an update on kind of the findings. And then around October, November, it will be included in the budget process. And I also want to continue to say this over and over again. I think it's going to be a multi-year implementation, but we're going to find out more obviously at the end of the summer. But I'll just turn it over. If we can open up the floor, we have our consultant on the call.
Sure. Entertain a motion, to open the floor.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So Matt, should be.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate the opportunity to support the city. I'm Matt Shevchik. I'm the AVP over at Carlson Denman. I have my colleague Ashley McCluskey on the line as well. Thank you for the opportunity to support you all. We've had a good kickoff meeting with city staff, and as Joe said, through the months of June and July, we'll be doing our market analysis. Hoping to come back with you in August, September with some of our findings. The market continues to be pretty aggressive, and to Joe's point, depending on what we find, we may have to think about a multi-year implementation. But we'll do our work and we'll come back with the results and provide that to the personnel committee at that point. So this study this time around is focused on the market, so the external competitiveness, what are others doing? So it's less of an internal look on job changes and things like that. The city has done a good job of keeping that up. There may be some targeted reevals for select jobs, but this is really more focused on what is the market, the external market doing, and how is the city keeping up with that. Any questions?
Alder Hutchinson, any questions?
I'm assuming that the recent negotiations by nearby municipalities is going to be looked at closely and with when they have jobs of equal comparison, and that will weigh heavily in what's going on.
We are using the same comp comparables as we have historically for you, and so any new information that we collect, and that's the exact actions we're taking right now is the collection of all that information. All that will be utilized as we look at the composite levels. Organizations continue to move, and it's really a challenge to project and forecast where many other organizations are undertaking studies as well.
Okay, thank you.
So just two questions real quick. Are you guys including department directors or department heads in this analysis?
You mean the positions? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then I know Alder Galvin had submitted this communication about even elected positions. So in particular, I think about our chief administrative officer. Is that being evaluated?
For elected officials?
Correct.
I don't.
And I say the mayor in his capacity as the chief administrative officer, right? I didn't know if that analysis was being conducted for that, because I know there, like I said, that there is sort of that outstanding communication on that.
I guess we can talk further with Matt on that. I don't think we anticipated that to be included, but we can talk further and see if that can be.
I think it would be a worthwhile inclusion. So that way, when that conversation topic comes up, we're not just, discussing feelings. We're discussing actual data in the marketplace.
Yeah, Joe, I don't think that was part of the scope, but we can definitely discuss it and talk about the inclusion of it.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I mean,
Alderman Burnett.
yeah, thank you for the update, Director Waltz. I mean, it is what it is. It'll take what it takes to do it right. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the concern is that, I mean, it passed unanimously at the council, but when we get the report, whenever that will be, it's actually funding or considering funding the increased pay for some of the positions. I think that's where the real tough decisions are going to be made, so.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the balance that we always talk about. Last time we did a study, we were looking to hit 50%, but we found 50% isn't doing it, at least in the times we are right now. Now, that could change in a few years, or it may not change at all. It could get worse. But we need to be on top of it. We need to have the employees in place. We're finding out that we've got a lot of our summer help can't get hired, and that's cutting grass and other things like that, and these are the complaints we deal with. Stuff isn't getting picked up by the DPW. I mean, it's an ongoing issue. And obviously with the police department, that's been a concern of ours for years. So having a good study done with some good facts and bases and options available to us, I think is very important. It's going to help us make decisions on these budget issues as we go forward. When we don't put enough money into something, we're going to pay for it, I think. And so it's good to have the reasons and the justifications there to help us make those decisions. All right, and this isn't something we need to vote on, is it?
No, just informational, so I don't know if you have to close the floor, I guess you probably should.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hold on.
I just have one question.
Sure, absolutely.
If I may.
Yeah, sure. We have to have you come on.
Okay.
It's a rule.
State my name and all that stuff, or-
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I need your name and your address.
Mark Berglund, 806 North Broadway, Green Bay.
Okay.
And I just have one question. I received an email from Manager Falk, which I greatly appreciate. I work for Parks.
Sure.
And she's trying to keep us in the loop of all of this. And this email got sent to Park and Forestry Labor Association, DPW Labor Association, Bus Mechanics Union, and I believe Electrical Labor Association. And in there, it is saying that they are comparing benchmark positions, and i.e., I think for the purpose of this email, it says mechanics, labor, truck driver, electrician, park maintenance worker. And I guess I'm just wondering a little more about the benchmark moniker. I mean, that would pretty much be everybody though, isn't it?
I guess, Matt, if you're still on the line, would you mind helping answer that question about the benchmark? Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. We define benchmark jobs as jobs that can be easily compared in the market, that are not unique to the organization, that we can provide a relatively strong sample size of comparators, and represents a significant portion of the organization. So in our previous study, I believe we utilized about 60-some, 65, I believe, benchmarks to do this study. Some of the ones you spoke of were definitely all included in the previous study. And so there will be jobs that the city has that we cannot make a strong comparator to. And so that's why we utilize the term benchmark in our activities.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. So motion to close the floor. We had a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Unless we have any questions on the routine, the report of routine personnel action items, or our next meeting is July 25th, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And we are adjourned.
Good question, Mark.